Hey guys, I wanted to do a quick little video on training tools and some of the options that you have out there as an owner. So the first one to look at is the martingale collar. This operates as such. You either slip it on or this has a buckle, but goes around the dog's neck. Leash is attached down here. And when you need to tell him to fix something or correct something, you give a little pop on this and then it goes slack right away. It has to go slack. Dogs will learn to pull against anything. So if there's constant tension on the leash like this, it's totally ineffective. But if this is new to the dog and you can kind of change the dialogue about how he's going to behave on his walks, as an example, this can work if he's not already a super strong puller. The second one is the traditional choke chain, right? So it's just a chain like this. We loop it in like this. And these are very effective as well. Again, it works on the same principle. So this is obviously would be way longer than you would want for a dog if its neck were this small. But when it should be slack most of the time, if the dog needs a correction or he needs to fix something, we give it a little pop and then it goes slack once again. So if the dog is not already a super strong puller, this can be pretty effective. Then we move on to the pinch collar or prong collar. These are extremely effective for a large number of dogs. A lot of the clients that we get in are struggling with leash manners and leash reactivity. So on the right dog, this speaks very well to them. So as you can see, sometimes these links can come undone, which is a safety concern, which I will address in a second. We put it on just like the martingale, right? Thing goes on the dog's neck. Leash attaches down here. If I need to send him the message to correct something, I give it a pop and then it goes slack. These little prongs that, again, some people absolutely hate these things and they consider it a torture device. All right, so be it. But these are rounded, depends on the manufacturer, which is why I prefer to go with the Herm Sprenger, the German brand. These, I think they're the original makers of these, and they certainly have better quality ones than some of the cheaper ones out there. But these things allow for you to use minimal pressure to get the point across, and that's what we're looking for. This mid-size, so this is a 2.25 millimeter, the mid-sized one is very lightweight, which is also good. I don't like to weigh the dogs down with a lot of equipment, so it lets us give it a little pop, and then it goes slack, okay? As you saw while I was demoing that, this thing came undone a couple times. This is my dog's collar, and so she's worn this a lot. And because the metal is relatively thin, it can happen that it comes undone. So if you choose to use one of these, I strongly suggest you back it up for safety's sake with a choke collar. So you put both collars on the dog at the same time. This is clear, the choke collar is way longer because this is only going to come into play if you need it as a safety mechanism. You clip your leash to this collar and this collar, so you've got the leash hooked on both, and that way if this thing comes undone and falls off, you've still got your dog attached to this. So that's just a safety feature that I strongly recommend if you use those things. Then we have the e-collars, or for people who don't like them, they call it a shock collar. Okay, well, whatever. All different types of collars out there. This particular one you can either do the vibration mode or the tone, meaning a little beep. Depends what talks best to your dog. These are great tools, there's no question. I'm hesitant to use this on a dog unless a client specifically asks for it. The reason for that is a lot of people start using it the right way and then they almost default into using it the wrong way. So this thing will work for you as such. You can either use it for a long distance command. That's what they were developed for. So they started for bird dogs out in the field. The dog would be a mile away and wouldn't hear a verbal command. So you could give him a little tap on this thing and he recognized that that meant come back, okay? I used this that same way for my dogs when they're out exercising in the field. Let them run around off leash, do their thing, and then I can call them back almost like a virtual leash, tap this thing, and they know that means come back to me. The other way to use this is as a correction. And trainers who only use e-collars use it as a correction for all exercises. It doesn't matter if you're teaching a sit or recall, heel, it doesn't matter. But they tap it, and usually it's the vibration versus the tone, but they tap it every time the dog is doing something wrong. It does work to a certain extent. The concern I have with that is that once a professional trainer can do what they're doing. Once an owner gets a hold of it, they tend to start overusing this thing. And so what ends up happening is either it's completely ineffective, or you have to keep ratcheting up the level of the stimulation in order to make the dog respond to it. So we don't want to go out and start frying dogs on these things. Not that that would actually happen. These have evolved over time, so they're not like the old-fashioned ones that were a little bit harsh. They're pretty sophisticated now. But point being, you have to make sure you're using it the way you intend so that the message you're sending your dog via this collar is clear and consistent. It's very easy to get it a little bit muddled in there. Okay, what else do we have? Notice that I have not talked about harnesses. I am not a big fan of harnesses as a training tool. They can definitely serve as a management tool. I have used them on my own little toy dog when she became a senior citizen. She didn't need any, corrections. She was very small. I think she was 7 pounds. Put her on a harness. I just felt better about it. If you are only going to use a harness, then yes, you can still train your dog on it, but it's going to be a little more challenging. The reason for that is the harness is, number one, designed for the dog to be able to pull without hurting itself. That's why they were created for sled dogs that just pull. That's their job. Number two, there's no real way to communicate to the dog via the pressure that is otherwise available using training collars. So either the dogs lean into the harness because it invites him to do that, so he's learning to pull, or best case scenario, he just really doesn't need a lot of correction and he just trots along because he's naturally inclined to do that. Those dogs, great, keep them on a harness and everybody's copacetic. But more often than not, the clients that we get in at least have dogs that have learned to pull against their harnesses and are dragging people down the street because the harness, like I said, creates the ability to pull without any repercussions. Another one that I'm not a big fan of is the gentle leader or the head halter. Here's an example of one of those. And these are worn around the dog's muzzle. The leash attaches to this thing. And this is, I don't even consider this a training tool. This is a management tool. And yes, it will give you control over your dog. The challenge with these is twofold. Number one, most dogs hate them and will spend a lot of time and effort trying to remove it themselves. So they'll walk along and they're pawing at it, trying to pull it off their nose. Any restriction on a dog's muzzle, they're not going to like that because it's very unnatural to them, and a lot of times it makes them feel somewhat compromised in their own well-being. The other reason I don't like these is you cannot give a correction safely. So if your dog is wearing this thing and he starts to pull and you pull back on the leash, you are going to wrench his head around and that can cause damage to his neck. So I just would rather avoid it completely and not run the risk of any physical harm to the dog. So there's that one. What have I also not included in training tools? Clickers. Okay, clickers are great. A clicker is a marker. The reason I'm not a big fan of those, there are several reasons. Number one, I prefer to use my voice and be able to change the tone, to change the emphasis in the message I'm sending the dog. So the clicker is nice in the fact that it is very, 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 very always the same. The sound is exactly the same. The volume is the same. Everything is the same on the clicker. Click, click. There's no wishy-washy on that. I prefer to communicate to the dog verbally because I want to be able to put the emotion into it, the energy into it. Like I said, adjust the tone, adjust the volume, all that other stuff. So I don't want to be in this locked version of a clicker. Number two, if I tried to use a clicker, I would lose it. There's no question. Number three, I don't need another piece of equipment to carry around with me. I don't, that's not fun for me to load myself down with different tools or equipment. And number four, and this is probably the main reason I don't really use it with clients, is a lot of people start with using it as a marker and they use it correctly and everything works well. And then they resort to using it as a way to get a dog's attention. So that will backfire quickly. Think of this scenario. If you're walking with your dog and he suddenly sees a trigger and he starts to posture, and you can see that he's getting a little bit reactive. If you click in order to get his attention, because it's that loud, unmistakable sound, it's a unique sound. Now, basically what you've done is you have marked his posturing, the beginning of his reactivity. Remember, the marker is supposed to be telling the dog, yes, you did what I wanted you to do. Well, if you start using it to get his attention off of something else, you are using it the exact opposite way, so to speak. So it's an easy go-to when people say, oh my God, what am I going to do to get his attention? They'll do anything. They'll say things, they'll click, they'll stomp their feet, whatever. But as soon as you take something that was a marker for positive or for good behaviors and you use it to pull his attention away from something you don't want him to do, now you've reversed the effect of that tool. What else do I not use that are out there? Well, I'm not heavily reliant on treats when I train, so I don't have, treat pouches or different treat dispense systems. It's just not a big deal to me. My go-to is, and my methodology is, keep the equipment to a minimum, keep everything as lightweight as possible, and because think of it this way, whatever tool you inject into your training, you later have to pull back out of your training, unless you're going to do it for the life of the dog, which is usually not very feasible. So I don't want to be stuck on a clicker. I don't want to be stuck on a bag of treats. I don't want to be stuck on anything that mandates that my dog will only behave when I lug those things around. I don't want to do that. I want to be able to clip on the leash and off we go. And so sure enough, I train for that from the beginning. And so someone asked me the other day, what do you have on the dogs when you walk your own dogs? Like, what do you do? I use a pinch collar. I back it up with a choke collar for safety's sake. I clip on the leash and away we go. We've got some poop bags in my pocket because I know I'll need those. And that's about it. I don't carry a toy. I do when I'm doing specific training with my young dog, but it's not something that I have to grab in order to take them for a walk. When we walk, we just walk. We walk together, we enjoy it. I'm not loaded down with equipment. They're not wearing heavy, bulky equipment. We're just gonna go. And at the end of the day, for me, that has been the most effective approach and the most enjoyable for me and for the dogs. So let me know what equipment you like to use the best or any equipment you have questions about, and I will see you on the next video.